Welcome to day 24 of positioning ourselves for our best year yet and unlocking the keys to our success. And if you've been enjoying this journey thus far, all I ask is two things. One, go ahead and press subscribe. And two, share this video with someone else. And today, we're going to be discussing prioritizing our health and the importance of doing so. And the reason why it's so important is because the word tells us in 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20, don't you realize that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who lives in you and was given to you by God? You do not belong to yourself, for God bought you with a high price. So you must honor God with your body. If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy him. For God's temple is holy, and you are that temple. So our bodies are temples, and we're called to honor God with our bodies. So this year, it should be our priority to do a better job of taking care of our temple so that we can better honor God and have more fruitful and healthier lives. It should also be our goal not to just have a great year, but to live a long and healthy and prosperous life. I know for at least me, I don't want to just live till I'm 50 or 60. I want to live a healthy life for as long as I possibly can. So let's talk about the impact of faith on our health. And I've done a little research and I'm going to share some interesting facts that I came across. So bear with me because it may be long because we have a lot of stats and data. So if I ask you, what is the average life expectancy of a male and of a female? Do you know what it is? Well, the average life expectancy is 76.4 years. Men born in the US are expected to live an average of 73.5 years, and women 79.3 years. And men have a higher death rate for cancer and heart disease, while women have higher death rates for Alzheimer's. And do you know the number one cause of death or preventable death that exists in America? It is heart disease. Heart disease is the leading cause of preventable death for both men and women. This is actually not just in America, this is the number one cause of death worldwide. And more than half of all the people who die due to heart disease are men. There's four main factors that lead to heart disease: poor diet, high blood pressure, obesity, and tobacco use. Black adults have the highest prevalence of obesity at almost 50%, followed by Hispanic adults at around 45%, and white adults at 41%, and Asian adults at only 16%. Black adults also have the highest rate of hypertension and have 6 times greater the odds of hypertension than white adults. The percentage of black men aged 20 and older with hypertension is 56.8%. And the percentage of black women 20 and older with hypertension is 57.6%. Let's talk about stress. According to the American Institute of Stress, they report that 120,000 people die every year as a direct result of stress and work-related stress. And this stress begins to take a toll on our bodies, which leads, again, to heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, depression, and other illnesses. Suicide. Suicide has increased by almost 40% since 2000, and with 2022 showing the highest number of deaths on record. So as we understand more about the death rates and preventable death, I also want to share how faith impacts our health. Because again, we are holy temples, and our faith ultimately impacts our health. So I want to share with you some research that I found that highlights the impact of our faith on our health. Research shows that religious practice substantially contributes to physical and mental health. Regular and routine religious practice lessens depression, it promotes self-esteem, and builds familial and marital happiness. Religious worship also increases longevity. It improves an individual's chances of recovering from illness and lessens the incidence of many diseases. The health savings of religious practice in 2012 was around $115 billion. Here's how faith coincides or impacts our mental health. Good mental health is highly correlated to religious participation. An increase in religious practice was associated with having greater hope and a greater sense of purpose in life. Religious affiliation and regular church attendance were among the most common reasons people gave to explain their own happiness. Happiness was greater and psychological health was better among those who attend church or religious services routinely. According to the Pew Research Center, highly religious Americans are more likely to be very happy with the way things are going in life and to be very satisfied with their family life than their less religious counterparts. According to the General Social Survey, 34.1% of adults who attended religious services at least monthly as children considered themselves very happy, compared to 28% of adults who attended worship less than on a monthly basis as a child. Those who worship frequently and were raised in an intact family tended to be the most happy. More frequent attendance at religious services predicted less distress among adults and high school students, even when accounting for normal social demographic predictors. For adults, a strong belief in eternal life also predicted less harmful stress from work-related problems. African Americans who were more religious reported a greater sense of control than less religious respondents. This greater self of control was in turn correlated with decreased distress. People who were frequently involved in religious activities and highly valued their religious faith were at a reduced risk of depression, according to a review of more than 100 studies. Those who participate in community religious services had lower levels of depression than those who did not fellowship in a religious community but prayed alone. So we're learning the benefits of not only faith, but also being connected with a body, being connected with a family and a group of believers. First graders and kindergartners whose parents attended religious services were less likely to experience anxiety, loneliness, low self-esteem, and sadness. So in other words, to help with your children driving you crazy, you should attend church more. Membership in a religious community can enhance coping skills. One study found that people were much more inclined to use positive coping responses when they received spiritual support from fellow church members. When like-minded individuals and families join together in prayer, mutual support, or religious practice, they viewed their circumstances with spiritual significance. Not only mundane daily affairs, but also major life traumas. Therefore, involvement in religious practice, religious organizations, and religious communities tend to lead to favorable self-image and to foster the development of faith, hope, benevolence, and a belief in divine grace as a personal spiritual resource. According to the National Survey of Children's Health, parents whose children attended worship at least weekly report slightly less parenting stress than those parents whose children attended worship less frequently. Both public and private religious practice protect against depression. People who were frequently involved in religious activities and highly value their religious faith were at a reduced risk of depression. This review also found that 87% of the studies concluded that religious practice correlated with reduced incidence of suicide. According to another survey, women aged 30 to 55 who attended regular services at least weekly had a 5-fold lower rate of suicide than those who never attended. An analysis of this study showed that women who attended religious services weekly or more often were less likely to become depressed. The same study reported, though, that women who were already depressed were less likely to attend religious services weekly, which in turn can worsen their depression. Levels of depression were also lower for those who participated in religious services than they were for those who only prayed on their own. Studies have found that adolescents who frequently attended religious services and had a high level of spiritual support from others in their community had the lowest levels of depression. Physical health. Here's how faith impacts our physical health. Men and women who attend church weekly had the lowest mortality rates. Religious practice delivered longevity benefits, most significantly by encouraging a support network among family and friends that helped to maintain a pattern of regimented care, reducing one's mortality risk from infectious disease and diabetes. Greater longevity was consistently and significantly correlated with higher levels of religious practice and involvement regardless of the sex, race, education, or health history of those studied. Those who are more religiously involved live on average of 7 years longer than those who are not. Among women, attending a religious service more than once a week was linked to a 33% lower mortality risk compared to those who never attended religious services. Among African Americans, the benefit of religion to longevity was particularly large. The average lifespan of religious blacks was 14 years longer than that of their non-religious peers. Among African Americans aged 18 to 54, those who attended church more than weekly had an even lower mortality risk than those who attended just once a week or not at all. How faith impacts the health of our children. Adolescents whose mothers attended religious services at least weekly displayed better health, greater problem-solving skills, and higher overall satisfaction with their lives, regardless of their race, gender, income, or family structure. Youth who attended both religious services weekly and rated religion as important in their lives were more likely to eat healthier, sleep sufficiently, and exercise on a more consistent basis. And as we continue to prioritize our health and we see how faith impacts our health, it's time for us to set a new standard and bring good disruption to the area of our health, our spiritual health, our physical health, our mental health, and even our financial health. We've got to break some norms, break some traditions for the betterment of our health, starting in our family, but also in our communities. In 3 John 1 and 2, it says, "Dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well." So this year, it's important that we prioritize our health. So, action items for today. Number 1, prioritize positioning yourself to live a long and prosperous life. Number 2, prioritize being consistent in your faith and prioritize getting connected with the church and a faith community. Because we see all the benefits of our faith and also being connected with other believers and worshiping together. Number 3, if you have children, prioritize teaching them about faith and bringing them to church on a consistent basis. 4, increase our physical activity. Get active and get sweating for at least 30 minutes a day, at least 3 to 5 times a week. But it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So just get started is the most important thing for us to do. So if it's starting off with 1 day a week, start there and gradually build habits and routines that will prepare you for long-term success. And you can also make it fun by choosing an activity or a sport that you enjoy. So if you like basketball or tennis or you like to dance, find different activities and classes that work for you to get you moving. Number 5, increase our consumption of fresh fruit, vegetables, and whole grains. Number 6, reduce our consumption of fried foods and highly saturated fats. Number 7 is to reduce or limit our alcohol consumption. Number 8, if you're a smoker, make it a goal to gradually quit or to reduce your intake. Number 9, lose a few extra pounds if that's what you need to do to be more healthy and to be more fit, not only for this year, but for years to come. And we're not talking about being skinny, we're talking about being healthy and being fit. So if you've enjoyed this video, all I ask is 2 things. Number 1, go ahead and subscribe. And 2, share this video with someone else.